All right. Welcome back to Stop Interviewing, Start Selling. I'm your host, Philip Meyer. And today we have a sales rep extraordinaire, Alison Abbott. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you are now is it four-time President's Club Achiever with UniFirst?
Yes, that would be correct. Before the rankings come out, I don't want to speak too soon, but I believe that's where we're headed.
Awesome.
That would be correct.
Well, congratulations. I mean, for those of you who have no idea what that means as far as achieving President's Club, most sales companies or organizations have a pretty amazing incentive package. And one of those packages is at the end of the sorry, I'm gonna take my headphones off a bit because it makes me stutter sometimes. But one of the incentives is that at the end of the year, there's typically a pretty exotic trip for 4 days, 5 days, what have you, as well as a trophy that goes along with that, whether it's a plaque. In this case, President's Club gives a diamond ring to their reps, which is a very coveted ring. In fact, I have it on my wall of motivation that I stare at every single day. And Alison has done that not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. So congratulations on that. That is absolutely incredible. How does it feel to be known as a President's Club Achiever?
Thank you, by the way, first. It is something that is ever changing. The first year you make it, it wasn't my first year within the company. It was my second year. So the first year I got to 75% and I was like, I missed Cabo. I'm getting it next year. So the more you make it, and like, I didn't make it the third year, I was back at 75% again and didn't make it. So I made it the third year. And so every President's Club changes your dynamic within the company, how you sell, how you're motivated for the next year, because it is just above and beyond what you ever think it would be. Everyone's different. So it's empowering, and it really gives you a sense of company pride, and you get to know executives, and they are not, these people on a pedestal. They're people like you and I grinding every day.
Yeah.
So it really kind of puts a sense of camaraderie together in areas that you would not anticipate. And it's a blast.
Yeah.
And we kind of drink our faces off.
That's not too bad, right? I mean, that's one of the perks
No,
of being,
I'll take it.
Yeah. But to make it to P Club means that you're literally about what, the top 5% of the company, right?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know the percentage or the stats, but it definitely doesn't hurt to be up there. Whether you're a routeman, it gives you great visibility, or a CDR or whatever. I'd have to ask. I don't know, truthfully.
Yeah.
You got me on that one. I'm going to
Yeah.
have to ask now. I want to actually know. I mean, you could be 100% right.
I don't know. I've never been, so. But no, like I have some other friends who have come from other industries, other companies. And one of the things that they have said is that the only company that they've seen measure a President's Club rep the way that we do, actually, sorry, I should have rephrased that. So what they said is that the top 5 to the top 3% of the company usually go with their previous employment. And it's usually not based on a number or an average. It's just the top people end up going. So, but before we talk more about P Club and what that experience like, because I'm sure there's probably a lot of people who, like me, have so many questions about what that's like. Tell me more about your background.
So I am in Charleston, South Carolina, for you guys that don't know where I'm coming from. And my background is the food and beverage industry for the most part. I have a degree. a BS in psych that I got to use for like 10 months right out of college. I worked with some autistic kids for a little bit, which was the best experience of my life. What a great reward. They do not pay those people enough. It is just unbelievable. The more you get paid, the further away you get from the kids. And some people really want to go that route, but I wanted to stay with them. But so had to get out of it a little bit. Did food and bev still, started staffing, which was the fastest 9 hours I ever worked behind a desk, but my only desk job in entirety. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm moving around the whole day. I got to be out there. And, it was just a tad different from restaurants. So she gave me an opportunity to get into sales for a little bit. And I cold called UniFirst within my first week. And they wanted to sit down with me and offer me a sales job. And I was like, what? I don't even know what I'm doing at all. So I was like, let me get my feet wet. Let me figure it out. I quit doing the serving and 40-hour a week on top of that. It was just impossible to do. So I came back in and I said, hey, are you guys still hiring? And we did a week later. And then 6 years later, here I am.
Wow. Yeah, that happens a lot. Because
really, really proud to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean that happens a lot too. I mean, I talked to a lot of other reps who have said the same thing. In fact, that exact thing has happened to me a couple times where companies have wanted to sit down with me after doing like a really good like first discovery meeting, or CNA is what we call it, and then they want to talk about poaching me as a sales rep. That's something I don't feel like happens with any other industry. Because I mean, like, let's say you're a waitress or a waiter and you have good service. I mean, is that person going to be like, yeah, I could use a really good waiter at my restaurant? But they're probably not going to eat there because they have their own restaurant, right? So, I mean, it probably doesn't really happen as often. But, so, sorry, go ahead.
No, we've recruited several bartenders that are like, I can't stand this
Yeah.
place anymore. I hate Joe. Get me out of here. And we're like, okay, you can come. We need one. Get on over here. The restaurant industry is so prevalent in Charleston that we just flip flop a ton.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
People
that.
get recruited a lot. Yeah, people get recruited a lot, but you're right. I would say that that's happened to me a lot in this industry, more so than the restaurant industry, for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. And I think it probably happens more, especially now that you have that pclub standard with you. I mean, if most people go to your LinkedIn page and they see 4-time President's Club achiever, they're probably going to say, that's the person that we want representing our company because they have the work ethic, they have the drive, they have the motivation. I mean, how often does that happen that you have a recruiter that reaches out to you via like social media?
Probably once a week. Some are very aggressive. Some are not so aggressive. Some are really, really nice. But honored either way, honestly. It's a blessing to be wanted, in a world where it's so crazy, especially right now. But you feel like you do work for that a little bit. So I mean, it's definitely more in person than I would say over social media, because then you have that relationship with those people. They get to see who you are live. So I think that it's definitely happened more in that scale, but it is a once a week, like random recruiter, like, hey, we've looked at your profile and there's a huge opportunity in your area.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question then, because sales is not for everybody. And just by talking to you, I know you have the personality for it, obviously. But like, as far as other opportunities, other industries, why pick sales out of everything that you've seen or everything you've had the opportunity to experience?
Well, even though the restaurant industry will just about make you hate everybody. Uh, it's a form of sales. And when you get into the sales that we're into, and you have a manager that really backs you up, and a whole team that's there for you, it's a different ball game. I don't think that I could transfer my sales to real estate. I never want to sell real estate a day in my life. And it's nothing against the guys and girls that be. I think I'd probably be a tad too honest. But that would just kill it. So it took a minute to find the sales that was right for me, because not every sale is right. I mean, I had an opportunity to knock on residential doors, and that I will never go back to. That was terrible. You think you're going to get shot or arrested,
Yeah.
just for asking about window panes. But so I don't know. You really start to love people in the sense that you can help them. People say, well, do you see that no soliciting sign on the door? I'm like, I'm not soliciting. I'm selling you anything if I can help you. It's really more of a mindset. A lot of people look at it as a stepping stone, and it can be. It doesn't have to be your career. But, if you love helping people and can be really passionate about your goals, your personal goals, sales can get you there very quickly, if you're game for the work that it takes and the discipline that it takes, which is something I am still probably learning to this day, because it changes all the time. But it's something that allows me to be myself, because you're selling yourself. I mean, you have your products, but people ultimately buy you because they're trusting you with their business. And that's really not so different from bartending when you think about it. You're trusting somebody to give you the right food and make the right drinks, and, not drug them or anything, and trusting them with a lot, with your health. So, plus we're taught to upsell and all that stuff through the restaurant industry. And if you have a good boss or a good restaurant, then that really transfers over very easily to sales. So something I was familiar with already a little bit. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
That's a really unique way to look at it too, because I think that there's probably a lot of people out there who have a job like being a bartender or a waitress or being even a receptionist that have the personality for sales, but have just never been presented with the opportunity. And you hit on something that's very, very key. And actually, one of the reasons I started this podcast with the whole COVID thing being out is the discipline aspect of being a salesperson. That's so the two reasons that I've heard that people start in sales is, number one is because of freedom, right? And being a outside salesperson, we have a ton of freedom to basically drive to any business that we want to go into, to cold call anybody, to talk to really anybody that we want, right? And it's not really a 9 to 5 job like a lot of people think it is. It's really a 5 a.m. to maybe 7 p.m. job, right? Uh,
Right.
but the second reason that people come into it is because uh, the uh, the money aspect, right? So freedom plus money equals super attractive, and that's something I think I share with you in regards to the discipline thing. Is I still need to work on that part of it, but as far as job hunting, looking for other stuff, marketing yourself, that takes a lot of skill and a lot of uh, just what's the word I'm looking for here? Organization, right? And self-motivation. That's something I learned through sales. So super awesome point. Now it's one thing to have all that. It's a whole nother thing to put that into practice. So I'm sure you probably get this question all the time when you go to President's Club or when you go to AVS or you go to certain classes or certain corporate events. How have you gotten to President's Club as consistently as you have?
I'm a crazy person with crazy goals. No, I'm kidding. Like, I really do. Like, there's some really like OCD aspects to this job. Like, I can get fixated on like some certain C accounts, even where I'm like, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that. I just got to stick at it. But really, in all seriousness, it takes a team. It is not just me. I get up every day and get at it. My dad instilled a work ethic that I could put no price on from when I was a kid. But having the management that I do have behind me to take care of as many aspects of my job if they can necessary to help me get to where I'm at. That is irreplaceable. I tell people all the time, I think that somebody could come at me with double my salary. It's going to be really hard to get me away from my boss. The team in Charleston, my service team, the plant people, I mean, they are, I can't do my job without them. I can sell all day, but if it doesn't get pushed out and it doesn't get, done the right way, and my service team can't deliver, I'm screwed. So keeping interpersonal relationships with your plant people, with your service team, talking to your boss, not being afraid to ask questions because it doesn't make you stupid. I messed around with the seismic application and redid a freestyle PowerPoint 5 times before I asked for help because I tried to teach myself. And she said, I know you don't want to hear this, but no one gets awards for not asking questions. So, and it's valid.
Knowledge.
She keeps me in check. Yeah. It is. And we have real conversations about realistic stuff because I can get so far gone in motivation to where there's a burnout, and managing your burnout is so important because I am very bad at it. So, I'll just go until I'll get up at 4 a.m. every day if I have to, and then work till 7 o'clock or 8 or 9 or whatever, if we're really pushing some accounts. And at some point I have to, stop myself and say, okay, I need to take time, a day, a break, whatever it is. And she helps me a lot with that. So, but I think that that's something particularly that sales reps don't talk about enough, is how to manage your burnout. I connect with my old AVS class. We Marco Polo every day, almost, for the last 2 years. A lot of them don't even work for UniFirst anymore. Brittany Hartley is one of them. She's making President's Club this year. And she made her, and we talk every day about something or another in the sales world to lift each other up, to talk about the same issues we might be having. Really, it's just mainly about a support system and having your own personal goals, not for the company, not for your sales manager, goals for yourself, your family, things that you're very, determined to get. That's why you get up in the morning and you say the goals in your head in the shower. What am I going to do today? I'm going to get 3 CNAs. I'm going to kill this PT. I'm going to set, 2 point, whatever, go see this guy, go see that guy, and you make it happen. You visualize it, so to speak. And then you make things habits. That's the hardest thing to do is making things actual habits, that you should, because I am the most organized chaos. It is bad. I had to buy a desk for my house to have stuff in. But it's always a work in progress. I think that you have to be ever learning and open-minded, and never too good to take advice from anybody, a rep that just came in, or a service guy or a plant person. There's a lot to being consistent in this job, actually, more than I would have thought.
Yeah.
To have mentioned.
Yeah. What's funny about what you said is I just did a podcast with Julia Decker, who actually used to be
I saw that.
Yeah, it was awesome. She's absolutely amazing. She actually, to date, is the most viewed podcast on my YouTube channel. So I told her I'd send her a trophy. And now that it's being broadcasted, now I have to. So I'm going to send her a trophy. I'm also going to petition the people that write the dictionary to put Ludlow as master analogy maker, because I promised him I would do that as well.
There you go.
But there's so much to unpack in what you just said. And I think number one, what people fail to realize, and I think that you're right about the burnout thing, because I've had moments in my career with sales, whether it was with UniFirst or a different company, where I'm just burnt and there's nothing left to give. Like, I don't want to go hit 20 doors today. I don't want to go make 80 phone calls in 4 hours. I don't want to set another appointment because I have to talk to somebody else about what I do. I'm going to go crazy, right? There's definitely those days. And I think what's really helped me is speaking with people like you on social media, right? And actually finding that, oh, okay, I'm not the only person that feels that. So thank you for talking about that, because I think you're right. There's a lot of people that don't talk about it, either because they don't feel like it gets really a problem, or because they don't feel like they get burned out, right? But the second thing you talked about was making habits. So I know a lot of people who have gained whatever level of accomplishment, whether it's in business or whether it's in sports or personal growth, have always looked back at making things a habit. And if you go to Barnes and Noble or Amazon.com, you look up making things a habit book, you'll find hundreds, if not thousands of books on that. Have you read any books that have taught you that? And if so, which ones would you recommend?
I haven't, and that is extremely interesting. Some things you just don't think about that are right clear in front of your face, obvious. That is, it is so interesting because it takes a lot of self-discipline to do it. I mean, there's easy things. Like, the only reason that I'm on LinkedIn as much as I am is because, unless it's a super early morning where people are going to be like, holy crap, she's up at 3 a.m. I am the first 15 minutes of my morning after my alarm goes off, I'm on LinkedIn, and I coordinate to 15 minutes. That's it. To like my customers' posts, to connect with people that I may have forgotten to connect with yesterday, to wish people anniversaries, happy birthdays, whatever, and then to find either something hilarious or inspirational or an experience that I can relate with. And just by doing that over the last 2 years, Will McDonald called me a LinkedIn ninja 2 days or last week, which I thought was hilarious, and I will take that compliment. But that, you bring up a really great point. Have you read any habit making books that you would suggest? Is my question.
Yeah. So, so recently I've gotten into some sales books written by Jeb Blunt. One of them was Inked.
Love him.
Which was a fantastic book. And actually, one of the things I didn't know until I started reading that book is the reason that resonates so much with me, and that I feel like he's speaking my language, is because he was actually a rep in the laundry business, much like you and I are. And I was like, holy crap, I had no idea. No
I'm pretty
wonder.
sure it was Aramark.
Yeah. That's okay. I won't hold it against him. So I read that book. I also read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a great book. Very, very simply written too, which is fantastic. The first ever book I read, though, that kind of got me on that path was a book by a guy named Michael Conway, and it was called Sabotage. And the subtitle was The Nasty Little Secret That We Tell Ourselves So We Won't Win, or something to that effect. But I actually spoke with a with a psychologist I'm hoping to have on the podcast as well, because I was actually on hers. Her name's Bobby Jo Brighton. And she was talking about this whole thing that she focuses, or that she really tries to focus on, which is imposter syndrome. And actually had a whole hour-long conversation with her, and she was like, yeah, you definitely have imposter syndrome. And I was like, why do you say that? And she goes, okay, if President's Club was just a trip with no ring, no other accolade, would you work as hard for it? I was like, no, probably not. And she goes, why? I was like, because you just have a trip. You have pictures, cool. You can put them on social media, whatever. But if you have a ring, you can wear it every single day. And she's like, that's why you have imposter syndrome, because you have to let other people know that you did it. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? That's probably true. So yeah. So to answer your question, like I read a
That's
whole
so
bunch of,
cool.
yeah, she's pretty awesome. But to answer your question, yeah, I read a whole bunch of different books about that stuff and about how to motivate yourself. But really the biggest thing and the reason I started the podcast as well is just to just have that conversation with people and then have it published. That way I can go back and look at it again. Even though it's great for people listening, because I mean, they'll get kind of an insight into sales, into business, and also how to market themselves for their next career or for their promotion. It's really just all about me. So, but yeah, but you read Jeb Blunt's book
Classic
as well,
sales.
right? Inked.
Yes, we didn't read Ink. What in the world? I'm trying to look. I'm next to my bookcase.
Mm,
Um, oh man, it's gonna kill me to not remember what we read. I am so bad at names, just bad.
yep, I am too.
Um, and I don't know what in the world is happening to the book we're reading right now. We've read some Jeb Blunt. We've read a book about telling stories, which I didn't understand at first how it didn't. I didn't understand how she was writing it, but it really, really well related to our jobs because that is so much more fun to do and say all these stats and analytics and this is what we found. Like, tell your story, tell a story, tell their story, have them tell you and create a stronger relationship. So that was cool. Now we're reading a book about trust, which is a guy who came to President's Club. He came to Aruba. David Horshager, I'm butchering that last name. And he came and spoke to us in Aruba and was extremely inspirational. Really great guy, super motivational. His book has been oddly interesting in where it's more about leadership. It's definitely about trust in all sorts of relationships, internationally, globally, with your spouse, with your prospect. But particularly, why do people trust you? Which I've asked myself in a lot of reasons. I had an account move from Idaho down to here. They wanted their core corporate office was coming, which I have no idea what incentives they gave those people. Clearly, Idaho is not where they wanted to be. But he wanted the uniforms and everything here when they got here. And I'm like, okay. So we're shipping samples back and forth from here to Idaho and shipping sizing kits and having him do the whole thing. And I'm like, these people don't know me from Adam. I have never met them. I did the whole account over email. And I'm like, why do they trust me to do this? And I think that it's palpable when it's real and people can tell a fake person, salesperson, whatever,
Yeah.
versus somebody that's really trying to help them out. And where they're not knowledgeable, they say, let me go check and see about that, because I don't want to misspeak to something I don't know. And it's really about being real in this industry. And so many of those authors touch on that in their books. Like, you're not going to you can fake it to make it for a bit, but at some point you're going to have to know something and you need to authentically be you or people aren't going to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
So anyways, that was a long way to say I've blunt.
yeah. Well, it's all good. But yeah, like I feel like people say that the biggest fear in America is public speaking. I feel like it's totally different now because I feel like it's with the invention of social media, with all the transparency that people have, with really essentially being super vulnerable because they share their entire life on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever it is. I think the biggest fear is saying, I don't know, or saying, I don't know enough about the topic to even comment, or to add anything. So they fear looking like inadequate, right? It's like, how many times on Facebook have you seen a meme with a caption on the bottom with some stat? You go to Google, you look it up, it takes you 30 seconds. You're like, that's completely wrong. Like
Yeah.
that's totally wrong. It just makes me crazy when I see that. Um,
Yeah.
so let me ask you this question, because with all the accolades and uh, with your career with sales, now I don't know you. That being said, I don't know if you have kids or if you plan on having kids, but if you were going to have kids, would you recommend them to get into sales based on your own experience?
So it's crazy because I had all anticipations to have two kids of my own, and life is so funny. Um, and I met my husband, and he had an 11-year-old daughter, and my husband is 11 years older than me. So it's not often that I connect with kids that age, but it was instant with her. It was amazing, and she changed my life. So then I dwindled it down to one kid, um, and then I really considered where I wanted this career to go, and I was just like, you know what? I can't see myself doing this with a newborn baby. And God bless everybody who does, because I know it's possible. But I got very lucky to inherit a awesome, amazing girl who's a little bit of me, not even biologically mine. And yes, I would recommend it 100%. You can do so much with it when you have the right tools, and if you're self-motivated, which I've always been like that. I think my dad said, "Oh, I had to get on you about school." I was like, maybe in like the fifth grade. Like, I don't remember. I was always like, "Please get out of my face. I'm doing my homework." Whatever, it's when you tell me to do something and demand it that I don't want to. um that whole authoritative situation. Army's not for me. But I would highly suggest that they do, if they're open and willing to learn and take constructive criticism, because it's going to be that. I mean, the restaurant industry taught me so much rejection that this job was a piece of cake. I have dropped hot sauce on a guy's white t-shirt, coffee on people's heads on accident,
Oh
spilled
no.
it. I have busted my butt in front of a ton of people. I don't really know what this job could do. I have been embarrassed in this job. It was really bad. I'm a little too sarcastic for these meetings sometimes. Um, you put a little bit too much of yourself in it,
Yeah.
and I thought it was a joke, and it was very, very, very serious in front of like 8 people. And so I was like, you were not joking. Got it. Let's keep moving it on. I was probably beet red, but I mean, yeah, I
Nice.
would. You know what I will say? I will say yes to sales for my kids as long as they do something like that first. I feel like anybody and everybody should be in the restaurant industry, even if it's like a home ec class and school. Server, be the bartender, be the manager, because in some fashion, all of them have an important role to play, and they all get beat down for the majority of that career, and rise above it and become better than they were the day before and learn from it. So that's
Yeah.
that's my that's my piece.
Yeah. And that's something like I've never had that experience personally because I've never been with the restaurant industry. In fact, my first job, if you can believe it, was teaching martial arts. Like I did that for, I think I was 13 when I started. I was working under the table, and then until I was about 21, and I got married. And then that was in 2008. 2008/9 when the housing bubble burst and the housing crisis happened, and then they just shut down the schools. And I was like, yikes. What do
Yeah.
I do now? And then from there, luckily I had a friend who was a financial advisor, and he actually took me under his wing, started teaching me how to phone block, essentially make appointments. So I had to write my own scripts and answer my own objections and go over all that. And that was a very tough thing because it wasn't a job I really enjoyed, but I learned so much from it that when I came into this industry and they were like, yeah, we phone block on Mondays and Thursdays. And I was like, that's it? That's all I have to do for phones? I just have to do that? And they're like, yeah. I was like, oh, perfect. I can do this. No problem. So past experience is extremely important. So let's talk about the thing that everybody wants to know. What is President's Club like? What happens? What are the secrets? Let it all out. Unless our CEO has said, don't tell anybody. They have to earn it, and then they can find out. Because I have so many questions that I'll probably ask you offline about that. Because I'm sure that this podcast is not going to have
Okay.
cover everything. But tell me, so you go through this crazy grind of getting all these accounts, getting customers to trust you, you sign them up. And then at the end of the year, your name appears on this prestigious list that says President's Club Achiever, Alison Abbott. What does that feel like?
It feels every year like I'm going to cry and I never do. I'm too excited. It's like those, I don't know, little tiny building blocks that lead to the replica of the Titanic. You've made little decisions and little wins every day that you have barely patted yourself on the back for. And then you get the full view of the ship and you're like, it's there. Look, I did it. I've completed my mission. What are we doing next year? No, I'm just kidding.
That is such an
really
amazing analogy, though. Like that, I'm going to write that down. Hold on. Titanic analogy. That's dope.
Well, thanks. I have never really used that until just now. Honestly,
I thought that was really practiced. That was really good.
It is such a buildup. And that's why, you're like fourth time. And I'm like, the rankings are not out yet. Because this is such a weird year. You mentioned a very important thing earlier that your psychologist asked if it was just a trip, if you weren't recognized on stage and really getting to connect with these other prestigious people that have been here for 25 years. 15 years in sales is a really long time to be in sales like this.
Yes.
And really, like, you're like, how do you do it? And they're like, how do you do it? And you're what? It's just a crazy exchange. So you're right. It is the reps, the sales managers that I talk to that have been President's Club winners that are now, they're like, oh, great. It's just money. We make commission checks bigger than this. But, because it's just not the same. We are all, especially once you get to go multiple times, you form little friendships and little families that you keep in touch with. And UniFirst is a very interesting company to where you go to a class, you go to a President's Club, you go to a little tiny FS Super Bowl for a week, and you're best friends with people in like a day. It's like glue. We're birds of a feather. So not having the trip it's tough for top performers. They're like, we want the trip. We want the trip. We want to see everybody. We want accolades. Because once you know what it's like, because it's not quite the same motivation if you don't. Because then when you're in there, it's tangible.
Yeah. And this year's different too because of COVID. It's that trip's not happening, right? I mean, they're keeping everybody back. They're not letting anybody go. Yeah. That's got to be tough.
Yeah. So it's tough for the ones that really that's what they're looking forward to. The location is cool and we all look for the new location every year, but it's more about the people you get to be around and, talking to Steve Centros in person, which is our CEO, if, nobody knows that's the watching. And he is so cool. He is the most like down to earth guy. And getting time to spend with him in real time. Last year, he was at the casino table, and I happened to pop up to see how he was doing. And he turned around after about 3 hands and said, "I've been losing since you got here. Can you please move?" So, and he was saying it all in good fun. Just great guy. He's very funny. So I walked away for like 5 minutes, and I came back and I stood further in the back to where he couldn't see me. I waited till the next day where we had a President's Club picture before the breakfast and all the things. And I'm short, so I'm in the middle and in front and center, just happened to work out. And he leans down and goes, "You always manage to get right in the front, don't you?" So I was like, "Listen, I'm short. You know I'm short."
Right.
So I was like, "By the way, I stood behind you for 5 hands and you won last night. So it's not me. It's you." So it's, when you're talking to your president like that, it's just fun. It's a great time. It's a release that you've been waiting for a year to get. The excursions are top notch. The events are top notch. The food, I mean, you can't beat the Ritz-Carlton and these 5-star hotels that are just, catering to your every whim, and the scenes are beautiful, and you're getting to party for 5 days with the best people in the company. It's a UniFirst paradise. You can't beat it. It's the best. It's some of the best trips I've ever been on.
Wow. That's a pretty consistent theme across the people that I've spoken to that have gone or who have told me. Like I've spoken to the legendary Joey Hall, and he mentioned the same thing. He's actually been
Love that guy.
oh yeah, he's fantastic. In fact, he sent me a picture of his President's Club ring with a quote, and I will read it to you. So shout out to Joey Hall if you're watching this. Here's your shout out. It says, and I quote, I'm looking at it right now. It says, "I gave my soul for that ring. Man, dude, I worked my ass off. I will never understand a person not wearing it all the time. Blood, sweat, tears, man. It's the hardest thing I have ever done every year. It's never easy." Quote, Joey Hall. And I was like, that's so important that it's never easy. And there's so many people that feel like, because one of the things I asked Julie about was, what's the biggest excuse you've heard from salespeople that just don't make it or they don't do well? And she said, the biggest thing across industries is they always say, well, it's different in blank, and then insert your location title in that space. I think people lose sight of the fact that it is extremely difficult to get to that point and to even get some uh, minor accomplishments like top sales rep of the month or sales rep of the quarter, or to get a crystal trophy from corporate that says you were the best in this quarter for this month or whatever. Those are all things that I think as sales reps we need, because it helps to push us forward, right? It almost helps to get us back out of that burnout term. So yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Alison. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good time. I will say this, it's really, like you said, this job is not for everybody. If you don't wake up with a passion for what you're doing, whatever reason you do it, you don't have to love to help people if you don't want, if that's not your thing. If you have other goals, map it out or have it in your head or something, because it takes. The first 2 years that I made it to President's Club, I had the smallest amount of prospects. Opportunity is a mindset. I would have reps sitting next to me with larger territories, larger amount of prospects, and say, "Oh, I don't have enough industry. I don't have enough this. I have too many restaurants. We don't do the linen that they want." And it's just excuses. And I've had to talk myself out of the excuses. I am no exception. In my head, I'm not going to stop. I hear he's probably going to say no. You have this crazy sales dialogue in your own head where you're like, why? What's so wrong about that? What's he going to do? To say you're the worst person he's ever met and punch you right in the face and kick you out? Probably not. The worst thing he's going to say is, I'm not interested, or no. And it's terrifying sometimes, even for the most tenured person, and you can have some crazy days and really let it intimidate you. And it's a constant inner dialogue. Staying positive and having a good mindset is probably one of the toughest things to stay, to keep going, to make that one more cold call before you come in for the day, to make another phone call or do that one last thing. You got to find your own passion, and you have to make opportunity. It does not knock on your door. You got to go get it, which is my favorite part. I love that part. Our job is like a little investigation. You get to be a little detective. Where can I find this account? Where can I get in here? How can I help this person? What creative thing can I do to get in here? And when it works, it's like an explosion, it's great. And there's plenty of opportunity out there. People just got to go get it.
100% correct. So last question I had for you, and last topic I wanted to touch on, is social media. So one of the reasons I reached out to you on LinkedIn is because, as you know, I'm extremely active on LinkedIn. Like, for whatever reason, LinkedIn just speaks my language. Like, I understand it. And it's funny you mentioned Will McDonald, because the last time I was at AVS, I was actually with my sales manager, Chris Baker. And there was another sales manager that walked up to us, and she was like, "You're that LinkedIn guy." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, you're always on LinkedIn. Like, there's not really a person here that doesn't know who you are because of LinkedIn." I was like, "That's not true." And the very next day, we're printing off a presentation for this mock national sales presentation thing. And the printer was right next to Will McDonald's office. And I look in, and Will's looking at my LinkedIn page. And I was like, "I know that guy." And he turns around, he's like, "Hey, what's up? How are you?" So shout out to
Staying
Will.
visible is so important,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. But so my question to you is, you post a lot on LinkedIn as well. And one of my favorite things that you do is you find the humorous posts, you share it. But why, from your own mentality, from your own mind, why be so active on LinkedIn? Why do you feel like that's important?
I said being visible. So, it really, it changes the way that people see you in terms of your profession. I'm not posting, and there's nothing wrong with posting accounts that you sign up or everything about UniFirst. That is some people's modes, and that's totally fine. But I don't want people to see me as a car salesman. I want them to see me as a real live person. There are tons of prospects that I sit down with and say, everyone needs a car. I'm not a car salesman. I'm here to help you with what you might need. So, it helps people see you in a different light everywhere in terms of your own company, your customers, because I'm not doing everything on Facebook with my prospects. That's something that does not happen. We're going to stay on LinkedIn, and I'm going to keep my personal stuff separate, but that way they can see me in a little bit of a different light if they don't know who I am. I've connected with CEOs and presidents on there that I could never get in touch with without Zoom info, because you just can't get to those guys. Nobody's going to get you that information.
Right.
Shout out to Joe Fleming on the Zoom info track. Let me know where we're at. I've been emailing him every couple weeks. He's probably sick and tired of talking to me. But it's really cool. But I don't know. It gets you out there. It keeps you visible. It keeps you in a mindset that is business oriented first thing when I wake up, which is so important for me. Because you can really, my first meeting's not till 9. Let's, watch a little bit of the news, have my coffee. You can really get distracted in the hustle and bustle of life, or taking it easy if you don't have an appointment right away.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that can gear me in. But I've had some of the same experience that you did. I got off the plane in Aruba, and I heard Sam Smith reach out. She yelled across the lobby, "What's up, LinkedIn Queen?" And I was like, "What?" She's
Yeah.
like, "You're a celebrity." And I'm like, "I am not a celebrity."
No.
Oh
Yeah.
God, it was funny.
Sam is awesome. In fact, I sent her a message on LinkedIn as well because I wanted to have her on the podcast too, because I feel like her story is amazing. Have you talked to her about her career and like how that went from like here to here?
I don't I don't know if we've gotten into that. I don't think so.
Okay.
If we
I
do, I don't
won't
remember, or might have been having some drinks at the pool.
yeah. I won't talk about it, but like I met her at so Region 7 did a really awesome training that I was a part of. It's called the All-Star Club. And it was basically the best reps in the region got to go to this meeting with each other, and her story was just absolutely incredible. So I recommend anyone that is in a slump or is in some kind of a burnout to definitely reach out to Sam, because she's absolutely amazing, and there's a reason that she's one of the best sales managers in the entire company. But Sam, if you're listening, come on my podcast because I think you'd be amazing. um, but yeah, so it's just really cool, to your point, to be visual and to have that contact with people. Like, one thing that one of the sales managers mentioned to me is, she goes, "You have a ton of people that looked at your page." And in fact, I never paid any attention to views. I mean, that's not the reason I did it, or to be recognized. I just posted because I felt like organically I wanted to post something that people could actually relate to, right? And one of those posts was it was when I left Sacramento to come to Idaho as a rep. I took a picture of my desk right before I packed it all up, and then another picture right after. And when she mentioned that, I went back to that post because she mentioned that specifically, and I didn't realize you can see how many views you have on a post. I had 10,000 people look at that post. And I was like, I don't have 10,000 connections. Who's looking at this? Like, why is this interesting? So I would imagine you probably have the same thing that happens to your page as well, right?
Yeah, I am with you. I didn't realize either. And quite frankly, I don't know where the views come from either. But yeah, I did on one particular post that I had during the start of the pandemic with a president that reached out to me via text, and I was like, what is happening right now? I had been hammering email to phones, like, I've got to do double time, we're at home. And the second I sat down to take a break and read a newspaper, which I was technically still doing my job, was reading the Regional Business Journal, and text from the president of the company from a month ago when I emailed him. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe, I was just blown away. And that, I could go back and look. It got a bajillion million views, and I was like, who are these people?
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, I always
Super
end the
cool though to
podcast by
see where it
giving like
goes.
sorry, what?
I said super cool to see where it actually goes. Like, it's
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah,
It's kind of
definitely.
awesome.
But no, like, that's something I feel like I always mention this. Like, just to clarify, LinkedIn is not a sponsor of mine. In fact, I have zero sponsors. So if you're interested in sponsor my podcast, please feel free to reach out. But I will say that because of LinkedIn, that has literally changed not just my career, but I feel like it's changed the way that I see everybody else in the company too, because I don't see as many I won't mention our competitor's name, is like I don't see as many posts or as many uh, uh, marketing stuff from our competition. I just don't see it. I mean, there's never really a bunch of personal information. Like, I posted a few months ago that my wife and I are expecting our fourth child, and people love personal stuff. I mean, that one got a ton of views, a ton of likes, a ton of comments saying congratulations. But then, to your point earlier, if I post something about the company, maybe 200 people look at it, maybe, right? But people
Yeah.
want to see that you're going through the same thing. You have that same struggle, and that you're actually out there doing it. You're actually out there grinding. That's been my takeaway from LinkedIn. So that being said, if you don't have a LinkedIn
100%.
page and you're listening to this podcast, stop what you're doing, go online, go on linkedin.com, make a profile, connect with both myself and Allison. Okay. And if you're looking for your next career, LinkedIn is the best place to go, because the bottom right-hand corner of your mobile app, it says jobs. You can click on that, type in whatever you want, type in your city, and then reach out to those companies on LinkedIn. Look for the hiring manager, look for the branch manager, the owner, the president, like we do. That's a skill that I'll share with you guys. But Allison, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. If somebody wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn, what would they search for?
The Alison Abbott and UniFirst Corporation. I had a guy connect with me, and then he asked me what I did the other day, and I went ahead and deleted that connection, because that makes no sense to ask me if you would like to connect with me. My profession is right there underneath my name. Yep. So please use it for professional applications. That's all I'm going to ask. Anyone in the world, please. It's not Facebook. It is, and I will say one thing and be done. In terms of the visibility for LinkedIn, I am 100% sure that President's Club has a lot to do with it. But when I amped up my LinkedIn deal over the last 2 years, my activity, and posted things that were important to me, I was the only sales rep in the company that was asked to be a part of our brand awareness and marketing group that is connected now. And I don't think that would have been possible without it. I didn't realize I was the only one on there until I looked at the teams. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So we've got, I'm not going to divulge too much or Dave Katz will kill me. But we have some really cool stuff coming our way here soon. And what a better time to get into it, to really bring the UniFirst brand out, to be more competitive in the market, so to speak. But LinkedIn did that for me. So search for Alison Abbott on LinkedIn. I work for UniFirst Corporation, and that's about all you need to type in to find me.
Awesome.
I'm out there.
Well, once again, Allison, thank you so much. I'm sorry this has taken so long to get you on the show. My internet hasn't been the best ever.
No, I'm really honored. Thanks so much.
Oh yeah, it's my pleasure. Once again, everybody, thanks for listening to Stop Interviewing, Start Selling. I'm your host, Philip Meyer. This has been Alison Abbott, 4-time President's Club Achiever. Allison, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Philip. It's really good connecting with you. Let's talk soon.
Absolutely.